As we know, draft mode is really popular at the moment, and in today's video we are looking at 5 of the best shapes to use in draft mode. And with me is Aleh, who runs the Wasted Possession drafts, and he has pretty much seen everything there is in draft mode, and he's an encyclopedia of knowledge about the best shapes in the game. Welcome, Aleh. How's it going, buddy?
Oh mate, you've done me good there. I'm very flattered after that intro. Nah, I'm good. I have seen quite a few tactics in my time through Wasted Possession and taking part and winning the FM playoffs. So yeah, I think we'll have a lot to go with when we go through some of these tactics.
Awesome. So we have 5 of some of the key players in the draft scene at the moment. We have Stick Piano, we have Kirti, we have Goofy Jord, we have McKinnon, and we also have Aleh himself, who has won the playoffs.
I mean, I'm no longer the defending champion, which hurts a little bit inside, but we take the trophy and we move.
You may not be defending champion, but you have won it, which is something a lot of people, FM Stinger, can't say.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, that again, like, there's a lot of really good tactics in that, but I think, you know, I was able to come up with this, and it did the job. It didn't do as well at the second time, but I made some tweaks, so I think I might just stick with All Reliable from now on.
Just go back to the original. So the first tactic we are going to look at is Stick Piano's Strikerless tactic. Now, Strikerless was super popular in the last iteration of Football Manager. Is it as popular this time round?
It's not as popular as it was, particularly on FM20. When the strikers were playing that shadow striker role, you could throw anyone who was actually a striker in there and they'd absolutely smash it. Like, you could put Romelu Lukaku in there and he'd act exactly as he would act as a normal advanced forward. The difference was, because positionally it was different, the AI in the match engine wouldn't pick up the striker as early as they should have done. So if you get them long balls going over the top from some distance, then they're just going to run it down and your defense just can't stop them. They don't react, so they're not as likely to go offside, which is why we see the defensive wingers in this one just coming a little bit further back in order to just play some Allardyce football, I guess.
Yes, you're 100% right. The shadow striker role just provides those runs from deeps, and he's got 2 of them here. And slightly offset as well. He's gone for kind of like an asymmetric middle here. He's got a deep line playmaker in the middle, a centre midfielder to the left, and then those 2 strikers offset to the right. Asymmetric is a very popular system at the moment as well. Do you think it's because positionally it provides a bit more of an advantage, provides those better triangles in the game? Yeah,
like, even if you look at this tactic here, you can make out that triangle with the left midfielder, the central midfielder on attack, and the deep line playmaker. You've got that triangle with the central midfielder, the deep line playmaker, and the right midfielder. And then you've got a couple of triangles further ahead with, again, that central midfielder, the 2 strikers, or even that right winger and the 2 strikers. So it gives you a lot of options there in terms of, you know, passing, distributing, and working the ball up. And yeah, I mean, playing offset, it makes it a lot easier to drag players out as well. So it can really just ruin an opponent player's tactic if the players aren't sticking to where they need to be.
The other thing I like about this tactic is you've got the 2 inverted wing backs on support. So those guys will actually push up quite high in the pitch and actually tuck inside, while you've got the wingers really doing more of the defensive duty out there.
Yeah, 100%. Those guys can run in and kind of fill in the gaps between the wingers and the midfielders. So it really stocks the midfielder, which makes it really difficult for people to play down the middle. And then when you've got defensive wingers who might stick back a little bit on a few of the attacking runs, you're then covered in terms of a attack wide as well. So it really helps itself defensively too.
So with these tactics, we aren't showing the tactical style. We're going to leave a couple of secrets. We are going to show you the actual shape that these guys are playing, but we're not going to give you everything. So we're not going to give you any of the player instructions or the tactical styles. So have you played against this system before, and how have you found it?
I mean, I've played against Stick Piano a few times, and I always kind of hope that when we have been in, you know, draft competitions, I don't draw him, because I don't do very well with it, with a few of the tactics that I've got. And yeah, it's like, I feel like the ways you counter it, the 2 that work, is either bringing your players your defensive line all the way very high, or just dropping it back as far as it can go, and there's no in between. And give on any given game, the one or the other will work, the other won't. So it's a bit too sort of big brain for me, if I'm completely honest. I do not enjoy playing against a strikerless tactic.
Yeah, playing against strikerless tactics aren't fun. That's interesting that you're saying bring the defensive line all the way back. That's probably a pretty good kind of counter to Shadow Strikers anyway, because they've got nowhere to run in behind if your defensive line is already deep. But the other side is then you're inviting a lot of pressure onto you. So it's a catch-22 when you're playing these systems.
Yeah, it's literally a case of, well, personally, if I'm against this, you always need a halfback, because they are positioned and sort of versatile on the pitch enough to then maybe go in to the Shadow Strikers when the centre-backs won't. So like you said, it's catch-22. You either bring your line all the way back and risk just getting absolutely outplayed, especially if they've got somebody like Kevin De Bruyne in that central midfield, or even Bernardo Silva, to be honest, who can really play make and distribute the ball. Or you push your line all the way up, so regardless, they've got a better chance of being caught offside. But even then, if they're starting their runs late, then there's always a risk that they'll just pump a ball over the top. And if you've got the popular players even who were used as those shadow strikers, like Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah, Romelu Lukaku, if they don't get caught by the offside trap, you are in the mud. Yeah, definitely. If you stick in any of those top quality players into this tactic, you're probably going to end up in trouble. Let's talk about Kirti's tactic. Now, Kirti is a 2-time draft champion now, isn't he? Yeah, I mean, he's won the playoffs a couple times, I think. He's won the Super League, he's won the Race Possession Draft. He is the only person with the Holy Trinity. Wasn't the reigning champion of them all at the same time. That's a record that still needs to be taken. But, I mean, if we're talking about maybe a quadruple in terms of some of the bigger FM draft competitions, if he finds himself in a Streamer Showdown, he could potentially claim to be the best FM drafter of all time, and very rightly so. Yeah, it's 3. I missed out one there. Yeah, it's 3 that he's won. He's got a very interesting tactic as well. He's got 3 strikers up front, the 3 in the midfield, but crucially it's 2 wingers rather than centre midfielders, and then he's got the back 4. Have you played against Kirti in these draft competitions before? Thankfully, I haven't played against Kirti. When I won the playoffs, he was in the opposing group, and I didn't think he made it out of that one. He switched his tactic up. This is a tactic that I know he ran with in the Waste Possession Draft. So I got to see sort of glimpses of it during that. And how do you think it went? It looks like it's really designed to have like 2 tall strikers with a fast one in the middle. He's got the 2 target forwards and the wingers. Advance forward in the middle. It looks like he's going to go for goals. Yeah, I mean, it's a very FM22 beta meta, I guess. I don't even know how to word it, I mean, even if I'm FM22, the target forwards are supreme. So it's literally a case of, I mean, if you look at that line, when he's defending, he wants 7 people back. When he's attacking, he wants 6 people up front. You've got them wingers who are able to step back a little bit, play that early ball in to the target forwards. The supporting one will sort of come back a bit and help link the attacking play. And I mean, once it's reached a target man's head, you either flick it on to the advanced forward if you're a little bit deep for them to run onto. You want somebody pacey in that role. If you're a little bit further up the pitch, the box-to-box midfield is going to be wandering through. And even you've got another striker, another target man there. You're going to see a couple of head-to-head to goal moves with this one. It definitely looks like he's thought of the attacking section and the defensive section. He's got the guys who will look to attack, as you were saying, and then the guys that look to defend. But the box-to-box midfielder will provide cover for both. Because the wing-backs, usually when I play wing-backs, I have them on attack and I have them bombing forward. He's got them here on support, which means they'll kind of just support. They won't actually bomb past the winger that's in front of them. So he looks like he's got some balance in this tactic. Yeah, and I guess you don't want those wing-backs coming up. You've only got that one midfielder, which, if you're... I mean, one person in midfield is absolutely ludicrous at face value. I would never do it. But if you've got these wing-backs bombing up the pitch, then, I mean, if the box-to-box midfielder is in the final third of the field as well, you've got 2 people back to defend. So it's really important to make sure that your sort of defenders stay put in that scenario. Maybe provide a little bit of support if the ball's on the wing that they're on. But other than that, you kind of want them to just kind of stay back and make sure you're not being caught on the counter attack, because even with them staying back, it's very easy to get caught on the counter because of the lack of link between the midfield and the defense. But when you've got an attack like that, it's you score 3, we'll score 4.
Yes, this tactic kind of screams we're going to be overrun by in midfield. I think PvP often goes that way. It's all about being on the front foot, trying to score goals. And I think that's what Kirti's been trying to do, and it seems to be working for him. He's got a pretty good record, and if he's using this tactic, I don't see why it would stop anytime soon.
Oh yeah, I mean he's won. I think he's probably won the most draft titles out there if we're looking at from when the other competitions were born. I think the only person who would probably trump him would be Lelujo in terms of actual draft competition wins, and that's just because Lelujo has been able to do it for a longer period of time. I think if Kirti goes the way he's going, then he's going to be dangerous.
Do you think it'll be Kirti 6 times soon?
I hope so. Kirti is an absolute lovely guy. Both behind the scenes and on the scenes. I wasn't sure for a word for like the opposite behind the scenes there, but if anyone was going to do it, I'd be very, very happy if it were him.
So you're rooting for Kirti. That's cool. That is cool.
100%.
So let's move on to Goofy George's tactic that we have here. Now this one is a pretty standard tactic when you look at it, like the shape wise, and just as I was saying before, having my wing backs. He's got his wing backs on attack, so he's thinking like me, get the wing backs, bombing forward, and everything else. It looks like a kind of tactic I would use in my offline saves.
Yeah, and that's the thing that surprises me about it, because every other tactic that you'll see here and in draft competitions will be sort of outlandish and wacky. Whereas this is disciplined. The name of the tactic is control possession, and I think that's something that people don't necessarily try and do. Everybody's trying to get that faster tempo in there when they're competing against the draft. Quick football. No one really goes for structure or defensive, or with a defensive mindset. So I think that's exactly why it works, because it's doing something that people are not necessarily planning to play against.
So just because you're controlling possession doesn't mean you're necessarily defensive. You're just, if you have the ball, the opponent can't score. So I think that's probably what he's going for. He's trying to limit the chances that the opposition, who's likely going to be using a high octane, high attacking tactic, he's going to limit the chances that they have if he has the ball, which is a pretty smart thing to do, especially when you're up against these players that you're going to be drafting, like Lukaku, Salah, Mane. Don't give them the chance. You might actually get a chance of winning yourself, which I think seems to be doing the business here.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes Jack so good at competitive. Like, he's one of the most dominant players we've had in wasted possession, and he's been in a whole host of other tournaments. I think he at one point, just in draft competitions in general, he went on a 9 tournament win streak where he didn't lose, and I think the reason behind that is he plays against his opposition rather than playing for himself. I think when people are going into drafts, they're trying to focus on how they want to play and incorporate that, whereas Jack, I think, is bearing in mind how others want to play, and developing a tactic which sort of counteracts that. And at that point, it's sort of, well, what do I do? And it's worked in his favor since he came onto the scene.
That's definitely a clever way of looking at PvP. If you neutralize what your opponent's trying to do, I guess 9 times out of 10, your opponents don't have a plan B. They go in with what they have in their head, what they think is going to work. And when that doesn't work, that probably allows this tactic to then go on and get the goals it needs to win.
100%. And I mean, just looking back at Jack's sort of records, I don't think he'll ever score the most goals in a competition, but generally speaking, you can see him. You can see him picking up a few clean sheets and not conceding many. I think it was Jack who, in one season of wasted possession, I think he had something like 1 or 2 goals conceded in away games, which is crazy because especially on last year's FM, there seemed to be a very big imbalance between playing home and away. It's not as prevalent this year, but Jack was dominant in FM20, and to have a record like that means that he was certainly doing something obscure compared to what the rest of the competition were doing.
Nice, yeah. He's really thought about this tactic. It may not look it because it's not got the asymmetric system, you know. All the player roles are pretty standard ones you'd find in anybody's Let's Play series. You know, the box to box is there, your advanced playmaker, your DLP, wingers. There's nothing fancy, no inverted wing backs, but must be the tactical style. I reckon he could probably have many different shapes, but it's just his tactical style that probably makes the big difference.
Oh yeah, 100%. If you're needing a goal, you're putting that DLP further up the pitch, maybe as a shadow striker. If you're comfortable in the lead, you maybe want to seal it out, just drop that DLP further back, anchor man, half back, whatever you want. Like, but their tactic is this because it's so simple. Like compared to the others, they were very intricate. I don't think there was much you could change about them without sort of switching up completely what your game plan is, whereas here it's really easy to sort of shimmy the players around on the pitch and sort of make it work, which again is something that Jack's been able to do very, very well.
So he's more of a tweaker manager. He likes to tinker and make lots of changes in the games.
Oh, he likes to tinker, especially when he's losing. Sometimes it doesn't help. There's been times where Jack's been making changes and we're just looking at him like, you don't know what you're doing, do you? But if he's composed, then he'll make some really, really good changes, which they're just small tweaks which give him a whole new dimension to his gameplay.
Nice. It's cool to see a tactic that's not outlandish. So let's have a look at a tactic that is a bit more outlandish. So here we are looking at McKinnon's tactic, the one that he's used in the Streamer Showdown quarterfinal, it says up here. And he's gone for a 3-4-3 or 5-2-3 or 5-3-2. However, how would you describe this tactic? He's got the 3 centre backs, the 2 wing backs, 2 midfielders, but he's got an offset winger and then 2 offset strikers.
I mean, when I look at this tactic, I just feel bad for the right wing back because he's going to be having to run up and down the pitch all day long. But I mean, he won the showdown with it, so clearly it works. I think with a tactic like this, you've got that structured central defensive line and central midfield line that are always going to stay shape, always going to sort of hold their position, and be disciplined, which gives you a lot of versatility on the wings particularly. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Mckinnon's had an easy switch to, put that inverted winger on the left onto the right if it's not working, which again is a really good sort of option to have when things aren't maybe going your way. But yeah, I mean, I think what you'll find with a tactic like this is the advanced forward on the right, maybe having more of a free role in that right area of the pitch, maybe coming a little bit deeper as well because there's not really anybody filling that role. And then the advanced forward in the middle would, in my head, be the sort of main outlet in terms of goals, who will stay in his position and be able to take advantage of the misshapedness of the opposition team, because when you've got a tactic like that, again, Pele's are going to be drawn out left, right and centre.
Yeah, I used offset strikers in FM21 and I found it really, really good, especially when you've got nobody out there on the right wing. That's a lot of space for that right hand advanced forward to move around in. One thing that I really like is he's got a complete wing back on the right here on attack, and the complete wing backs have roam from position on as a player instruction by default as a part of their role. Which means, yes, he'll bomb forward, but he might actually tuck inside into this open space ahead of the box-to-box midfielder. He's not going to be a simple mark. You can actually get involved in all these attacks.
Yeah, 100%. And I believe in that tournament he was using Adama Traore on that right wing back role, who is someone who has those attacking qualities as well. So, if the ball's sort of stagnating in that area, then that right wing back will kind of almost come in however he needs to come in. Like, he could come in as a winger, pass it back to him, get a cross in. It could come a little bit more central, maybe even as a shadow striker or an attacking midfielder, and do something. It adds adds a multitude of options to his game. Maybe leaving him a little bit exposed on that flank at times, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if that right centre back was a pacey one in order to accommodate the movement of that right wing back.
I guess you could probably afford to risk being a bit exposed at the right wing back position because you've got the 3 centre backs. Because the space is going to be probably behind this right back here. So you're probably going to put crosses into the box, but you've got 3 centre backs here. So you should be winning any dangerous balls that get put into the box.
Yeah, I mean that left wing back as well on defence is always gonna be sort of hanging around the back too. So I mean maybe during an attacking phase it's more of a back 4. But then I think you'd probably want at least 18 stamina on that right wing back if they've committed to run it back down and sort out the back 5 that you need in that situation.
Yeah, you definitely see the right hand side being the kind of workhorse side because you've got the box to box midfielder on the right hand side combined with that complete wing back. Those guys are going to be doing a lot of work on that right hand side. Left hand side, you're pretty much covered. Your wing back on defense, he's not going to venture too much forward from there. You've got a deep line playmaker. You'll just kind of sit around the middle. You'll on support duty, so you'll get a wee bit more forward, but not too far forward. And then you've got the inverted winger on the left, also on support. So the left-hand side is pretty much locked down.
I think that works really well with the right-sided striker as well, because if you've got the ball on that left-hand side, you're going to have an inverted winger on support. The passing's probably going to be good, and that DLP as well, you'd assume would have quite good passing. And if they're both right-footed players, particularly, you'll be able to get this sort of bending balls over to that advance forward on the right, just stretch the pitch, use that speed, and then from that point, it's if there's a shot, go for it. If not, cut it back to the other striker.
Yeah, it looks like he's definitely. Well, he was obviously really thought about this tactic and all the little attacking patterns that could be the offset strikers, the inverted winger, looking for the strikers, making sure this right hand side is properly looked after with the box to box and complete wing back, and he's won the Streamer Showdown with it. He's been pretty successful, McKinnon. He's well known for his draft as well. He hosts a draft like pretty much every single week. He's got a lot of draft experience.
Oh yeah, he's won those. He does well when they're not competitive, but in terms of the playoffs, wasted possession, the Super League, I mean, we get the bottle of modes out for him. I'm hoping when he's sort of next involved, we might see a rendition of this to see if he's able to replicate that form. But I mean, it doesn't matter. When you've won the Streamer Showdown, that's the big one. That's
always a tick in your box. But I guess to bottle it, you have to be in the position to bottle it. So at least it gets him there.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I know McKinnon likes a little tweak as well. Especially if he goes 2 or 3 goals down, you can expect him to throw 8 people up top, and maybe when he's up, he might slack a bit defensively. But I think on that Streamer Showdown competition, I think he was probably the most sort of screwed on. He was, just because of the nerves, not wanting to make an error, and I think that showed. Maybe he stuck more to this tactic, and it managed to win the whole competition with it.
He was laser focused. And speaking of laser focus, we now come to your tactic. A tactic that has won you the FM playoffs. And again, you could have went for something pretty standard, but you went for something asymmetric. You've moved your advanced playmaker over 1 slot to the right. Let's hear your thoughts and let's hear your thinking behind this tactic.
See, it's almost symmetrical. But I think with this tactic as well. So I'll sort of start from the back. You've got the inverted wing back on the right, who's going to sort of be coming in centrally to help that anchor man. You've got the wing back on the left, paired with the inverted winger. So that inverted winger will start sort of coming into that central position a bit more, just behind the advanced playmaker, and allow the left back to make those runs and get the balls into that target forward. And it kind of replicates itself on the other side with the winger on attack and the advanced playmaker. The winger's going to shoot through up that wing. The advanced playmaker will then drop off a bit, and then, I mean, if you're on a break, it's the advanced forward you want. If the box is packed, then it's Paul Onuachu you want, because he is who I'm going to be picking every time.
Onuachu is a favourite of mine.
I love him.
I've used him with my Genk save, and yeah, you just put any ball into the box, float it in, and his head is going to meet it 9 times out of 10.
Oh, 100%. 6'7". The only issue is his heading is like 14, but other than that,
he's got the strength and the jump and reach just to push everybody out the way.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's one of them. He'll win the header like 9 out of 10 times. And in that case, you can afford to miss 1 or 2. That's sort of the thought process behind it. Especially on that attack role, it keeps him up there in contention. And then, I mean, even dropping it onto that supporting role, it just allows the inverted winger and the advanced playmaker to sort of become more involved in the attack. He can come a bit deeper, spread a pass out for a cross or a shot from range. There's a lot of ways it can work in this sort of system.
There's a couple of things I like about this tactic. I like having the anchor man here because you need somebody just to probably hold that midfield, protect those 2 centre backs, because you've got your wing back on the left who's going to be bombing forward. You've got your winger on the right who's bombing forward. I know your inverted wing back's going to come in and cut in, but I love the fact you've got the wing back on attack and then the inverted wing on support, and then you've got the winger on attack and then the inverted wing back on support. You've got the pairs, you've got the link ups there, which is something that I like to do with my tactics. I've also noticed you've got the target forward on the left. Target forwards don't necessarily get as far forward as the advanced forward, but you've got. Is that probably why you thought of moving the advanced playmaker over to the right 1 notch? Is because that target forward will stay there. You've got the advanced playmaker behind him, but more to the right. So you've got this kind of triangle of attacking players that will potentially pull some of the midfield or defensive players out of position.
Yeah, I mean, with that advanced playmaker there, it offers a lot. If he's in a deeper position, you can always play an early ball over the top to the target forward to flick it on. And a big part, the major part of that target forward being on the left is because the winger's on the right. And for that winger position, I don't really care about anything other than acceleration, pace, and at least like 13-14 crossing. When they're on that side, it's much more likely that the striker on the left is going to be the one on the receiving end of the ball. Daniel James is absolutely perfect for this tactic, especially when you're in a draft mode. He's 9 million. Absolutely the one to just run and thump the ball into the box, because he'll do it a few times a game because it's so hard to catch up to him. And yeah, knocking him in with a head. I think this year as well, Raheem Sterling's only 30 million, so he's a bit better to use. he was a lot more last year, but this year he's probably the ideal player to pick for this, because that right winger is just going to be launching balls in.
Yeah, Raheem Sterling's had a massive cut in price. It's ridiculous what a bargain he is.
Honestly, it's great.
That's interesting you mentioned about Daniel James. Not a player I would have thought of, but in your system, I can definitely see how he works.
I mean, for me, that's the most important thing about draft mode. And people there was the whole saga in that playoffs about Andy Carroll, because I wanted him. And the thing is, it was more because I loved him so much last year. But if you look at it from last year, Dan James was particularly last year as well. They just suited the tactic. There wasn't a better person in FM21 that could play a target man role the way I wanted him to, which is be a lamppost. And Dan James was just so quick. This year, it's definitely more of Raheem Sterling because of his cut price as well. That's a massive factor. And Paul Onuachu. But even then, Onuachu's 5 million in draft mode.
He's super cheap, yeah.
Yeah, other than for that sort of key target man role, he's not got much about him. But if you're drafting, then you have to draft to the system. You can't draft sort of the big name players all the time, because it just won't piece together. You've got to sort of know what you want to do, and then get the players that'll do it, rather than the most expensive target man I think this year is Olivier Giroud. Doesn't quite do it for me in that target forward role, and there's definitely more expensive and better right wingers than Raheem Sterling on paper.
That's good. It's good you mentioned about getting the players for your system. I think there's a lot of debate had in the draft scene about whether it's the tactic or the players, but it's a mix of both. It is a mix of both that provides the success, I think.
Yeah, you need to have the players that fit the tactic. Having one or the other isn't enough. Like, I mean, Goofy Judd's the prime example. We were doing a draft. I think it was his first ever draft. It was players under the age of 23, and he made his commitment. I am not going to spend more than X amount on a player, and I'm going to go for specific players. I think it was like 5 or maybe 10 million per player. And what that did for him, it enabled him to have a really good squad. And he was much more critical of the attributes, and he was able to piece a team together. Bearing in mind the likes of Haaland and Mbappe were in this draft, he managed to piece together a really good set of players that just did what he needed them to do, and he ended up winning it. That's the most important thing in draft mode, being able to identify the players that are going to be good for you.
Yeah, 100%. So there's one thing we've not talked about yet, and that is set pieces. I know you really like your set pieces. How important are they to you when it comes to PvP tournaments?
I mean, they were a lot more important before the latest update and the latest patch. But it's one of them. Like the free balls, the dead balls. If there are ways of working around them, then take it. And particularly for FM22 in the earlier stages of it, it was the meta. It was what seemed to be working well. And when you're in a draft mode, you need to play it as though it's a video game and not the real game. So when there are these little things that are coming out and are being discovered, and take advantage of them the best you can. If the near post is the one, go for the near post. Put Anawachu there. Anawachu and Virgil van Dijk was the combo for me. If, I think in previous renditions it was having somebody come short and then them two players just pass it between each other and whip a ball in, then do it. Whichever one is working for you, you need to make the most of it, because at the end of the day, like, if I hadn't have scored from corners, I think it was against Dalgit, I beat him 3-2. Van Dijk scored a hat-trick, and I mean, there's no prizes for guessing how he scored all those goals.
Yeah, I'm still licking my wounds because my corner routine is no use anymore. But I think you're right. You have to play it as a game, not manage it as a game of football. It's a video game, and you're playing these guys. If there's something there that's working, that's going to allow you to beat somebody else, use it. There's no shame in it. Use it. Winning is much better than losing. So do all you can to win it. And that's my opinion. I have no shame in using short corner routines, near post routines. If I'm going to win with it, that's all good to me.
Oh, 100%. It's like when Strikerless was doing the rounds, I mean, I was one of the ones who was saying ban Strikerless. It's this, it's that, it's the other. But ultimately, it was what was working. And you want to win this sort of thing, then you have to. I didn't go to use it because in my head it was funnier to not, because I was so anti it. So it kind of made that sort of like I was on that side, and then Stick Piano was on the Strikerless side, and that made it better for wasted possession. In terms of as sort of the draft show. When those discussions would come about. But like if something's a meta and it's working, and you need to take advantage of it, especially if you're trying to draft competitively.
100%. Do what it takes to win. Anyway, thank you very much for coming on the channel today. All the links to Aleh's stuff will be down in the description, but let us know where we can find you.
You can find me Aleh there on everything. That's everything. That's the easy one. And then obviously I work on the Wasted Possession draft, so that's Wasted Possession on Twitch, where the drafts take place. We also have a few sort of podcasts on YouTube as well, where I sit down and talk to content creators like Leluja, Dr. Benji, Zealand, Omega Luke, Fox in the Box, Sweet Yellow Card, second yellow card, and Sweet Left Foot. He's there too. I'm just flexing now. But,
you got a name drop.
Oh mate, there's too many names to drop. I always miss somebody out and feel bad. But yeah, there's some good discussions going on there. I'd appreciate it if people did give it a listen.
Yes, 100%. Go over, check out his content, drop a like, drop a sub, and while you're here, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for coming on, Aleh. Really appreciate you giving up your time to do this. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. And cheerio!